Swing Thoughts, episode 197, starts now. For the last 5 or 6, 7 years, golf spiritual leader and Coach Tim have combined forces to bring you the best in golf mental performance nonsense. Nigh on all these years together, and we have perfected it. How's that? How's that for some crappy improv?
No, it was fine.
It was.
I was talking to my sister on the weekend. Who's not a golfer, and she goes, I was telling her 7 years, approaching 200. She goes, who knew you could talk about golf for upwards of 200 episodes?
I know, it's sad, really. Yeah, who knew you could talk about every aspect of golf? You and I'm sure the STDs realize that, most of your days and a great amount of my days are spent doing this, whether we're recording or not. So
exactly.
Brought to you by Jonathan Wong Apparel. We had a nice chat with Jonathan Wong last week, and we're looking forward to getting our JW Apparel stuff. Have you got anything delivered yet? It's on the way.
Not yet. I keep looking, not anxiously, optimistically on my front porch. Haven't seen anything yet.
Well, we're very excited, and we'd like you to be too. Go to jwapparelinc.com. And, of course, our title sponsor, TaylorMade, the all-new Stealth Carbon Wood by TaylorMade. I can tell you, I get asked about it every time I'm playing. I've been with the company a long time, even predating our relationship, and I've never had as many golfers ask me about a golf club as this one. I'm not sure if that's your experience, but the carbon
Ditto,
wood,
they asked.
Yeah. Everyone wants to take a look at it. Yeah.
You're with TaylorMade. Ooh, you got the Stealth. Got the Stealth? Yep. And I hit it on number 10 at Blue Springs. Yeah. A narrow, interesting hole.
Crazy
hit
hole.
Hit it to the bottom of the hill for the first time in a couple of years.
Not surprised.
There you go.
I describe you like a lot of good players. I say, you move the ball with speed. And I'm not surprised. So if you can move a golf ball with speed, the TaylorMade driver is going to give you 3 to 4 miles an hour for sure, which translates to more carry, more distance, rollout, etc. If you want to find out more, visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca. And for the first time in some time, I don't know, do I have a sound effect for this? All right.
We'll go with that.
There's a bunch of stuff going on there. I'll just say that for the first time in a while, we welcome a new sponsor. You've heard us interview these people, and now Tim and I are not only in business, but we're clients as well. NeuroPeak Pro. NeuroPeakPro.com is where you find out about breathing, heart rate variability, and brain performance. These guys are the real deal. Charles Fitzsimmons is the one that introduced both of us to these nice people, Andy and Samantha, our coach. But whether it's golf or business, entrepreneurs, educators, and students alike will benefit from learning how to control your breathing, and not just like, namaste. I'm into day 8 or 9 of doing my little breathing exercises, and it really is interesting to find out just how to sort of control your diaphragmatic breathing in a way that gives you a calmness. And I don't want to go into the parasympathetic nervous system. They can do that. But I don't know have you not found that there's a certain vibe that you feel after you've been doing the exercises?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. So less of the vibe for me is more of the feeling of just a really good belly breath, and really feeling that when I inhale that, like, I just really feel that expansion into my belly. And I was noticing it on Saturday when I was playing, how I could just call upon it at certain times. When I stand up from a putt, maybe my head's a bit spinny because I stood up quickly.
Yep.
Being a certain vintage.
I get that sometimes too. Exactly. I'm like, why am I? It's so great.
Where's these stars coming from?
I know. It's like, why am I woozy? Oh, I know. I stood up. It's like, it's like that joke about why does my shoulder hurt? Oh, that's right. I slept last night.
That's right. Oh, why am I spinning out? Oh, I tied my shoes and now I'm standing up.
It's ridiculous. Let me continue and tell you that stars like Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, and more have added NeuroPeak Pro's precision breathing training to their training program. In January, NeuroPeak Pro introduced the Intel Belt, a first-of-its-kind real-time training device and mobile app designed to help unlock peak performance through better, more intentional breathing, and that's what it's all about. Find out more at neuropeakpro.com. Now, I'm okay at the line of scrimmage to make a different call. I thought our guest, one of your students, was going to join us later, and then we were going to do some stuff first, but he's here now, so let's just switch it. Let's do some stuff with Craig.
Call an audible.
And then we'll talk about some of the other stuff after. I think I've mentioned a bunch of times recently that Tim and Nate Robinson have started a program called Quiet Mind Golf. And Tim, of course, has been giving the Quiet Mind putting clinics now for several years. So why don't you take over and explain who we're going to talk to and why?
Well, we're going to welcome Craig Reed to the podcast today. How you doing, Craig?
Doing well, doing well.
Thank you. Good to see you, man.
Hello,
All
Craig.
right.
Yes, I'm golf's spiritual leader. Don't be
I know.
intimidated.
I feel honored to meet GSL here. And,
Don't be intimidated. I'm just like other spiritual leaders, only I suck. Anyway, thanks, Craig.
We actually,
Craig, here you go.
We actually used to, Howard and I used to live in the same neighborhood, and believe it or not, I used to drive by your house pretty much every morning on my way to work, but I never saw any unicycling, unfortunately. So.
No, that's right. You heard the interstate. Well, if you know where I used to live, there was that grade on those driveways, and I went streaming down the driveway of my Bayshire roadhouse. Oh, anyway, well, welcome to the show. Tim, why don't you take over and explain? Because I read Tim's blog, and if you don't subscribe to it, let me tell you right now, it's beautiful, it's valuable. O'ConnorGolf.ca. But this week's blog, and Craig, here's the weird thing. I didn't realize, I knew you were going to be on the show, but I didn't realize you were the one that Tim was talking about. Tim?
Yeah. So, Craig is one of our students, if you will, in Nate Robinson and I's Quiet Mind Golf Group. It's a 6-month coaching group. But I've known Craig going back to last summer, and we're going to get into some interesting experiences, especially one a couple of weeks ago that Craig had with chipping. But Craig, maybe a good place to start is to give us a bit of your golf background and how you and I came to meet and why.
Sure. Well, I guess I'd start back. Picked up golf in my early 20s, which, do I wish I had started as a kid? We all do. Yes, of course we do. Because learning anything as an adult is tough. But I actually got reasonably good at the game pretty quickly. I got super hooked on it. Anything I do to the nines, as anyone who knows me will attest. So got really into golf and got down to, 10, 12 handicap. I was always, I had a good friend of mine who's a member of the National. Could get around the National, mid 80s usually, and broke 80 a bunch of times. Never got really into single digits, but I was knocking on the door. And then I guess life happened, right? Work, travel, kids, and I just kind of shelved the game for a little while and came back to it. Probably, I played occasionally in my 30s when I was really, really busy. In my 40s, I kind of came back to the game and had a regular 4-ball Sunday morning. My game wasn't where it used to be. I was high 80s. I played a lot at Piper's Heath. I'd play high 80s, low 90s kind of thing on every weekday. And the funny thing is, I always used to have a lot of confidence off the tee, especially when I was playing in my earlier days. I'd just stand up and stripe it. And I found, as I kind of went through in my 40s, I was not playing a lot, but I always kind of had that confidence that, if I really apply myself, I can get back to, probably single digits because it's in there somewhere. And then I actually left a business. I had a 1-year non-compete coming out of a business I kind of exited. And I decided, well, now's the time to get serious about golf. And this is like 6 years ago. And I joined Mississauga Golf Country Club. And and I don't know what happened, but I went within a 6 to 12 month period, I got to the point where I couldn't break 100. And in fact, I went through a period where I couldn't break 110. I was losing so many balls. I was losing like 15 balls around, mostly off the tees, sculling them out of the greens into the river, all kinds of stuff. And in fact, funny story, I actually had to have an airstrike called in from the pro shop for an extra box of balls halfway through the round in order to make it the rest of the way through. So yeah,
That's so good. That is such a great
So it was
golf
so.
term.
Yeah, airstrike. I love that. Yeah. So it got to the point where you were really struggling with whether you wanted to play this game or not. And I think that's where you and I met, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And the yips, it started at the green. Although the funny thing is I never had the putting yips. I was always fine with putting. I can, once I get on the green, it's like my safe zone. I can get it in the hole, but chipping, sand shots, and especially off the tee, I was just, and then of course you go through the swing Rolodex, as you call it, Tim. You're out on the range trying everything you can to try to limp around the course. And, you'd find a swing key that would work for, a hole and a half, something like that. And then you'd have a bad swing and then you'd try something else. And it was just like, it was on repeat. And in fact, to the point where I was like, and when I met Tim, actually, I was like, I'm really considering giving up the game. But for the fact that, I've got a lot of good buddies at the club and I enjoy that aspect of it. That's probably what kept me in it, was their encouragement. And, but there were some dark days, there were some really dark days and some, times on the course where you're just, you're out there on a beautiful day in a beautiful setting and you're in a dark place. That's not a good thing. So that's what I meant.
So before we I want to get into the chipping thing, and that, but interesting, Howard, the dark days. I mean, people who don't understand golfers may not get that when we talk dark days, I mean, serious, like sleepless nights, not being able to like focus on work, impacts relationships. Really, it's that serious.
Well, Craig, before we tell the story of how Tim and Nate have helped you, I want to go back to something you said and bang on Timberly there. People who don't understand the depths of attachment we have to golf can't understand how a guy who's very successful like you, Craig, who's obviously accomplished, athletic, has abilities, you can swing a golf club with speed, so you're not dinking it out there 160 yards, how you can be so distraught over someone would say, a silly game. How you could be so where darkness would to the point where you're like, I am thinking of not doing this anymore. And I can tell you why I relate, because when I left golf in the early 2000s, I had had a pretty decent run at it, but I got to the point where I just I wasn't getting anything out of it anymore and actually gave it up for about 10 years. So I totally relate. And I think everyone can relate to what you're saying in different times in our golf lives. And before you talk chipping, I do want to ask so you got a hold of Tim, and how has life changed in your golf world, at least in the last year, before we talk about quiet mind, chipping and putting?
Yeah, I guess just a much different outlook. I think that Tim's been able to sort of help me see that, there's different reasons why we golf. The first thing Tim had me do is write down why I golf. And that was actually kind of illuminating for me because, there's reasons in there that have nothing to do with my swing or, what my score is on any given day. So that caused a bit of, self-check. And then, I got to the point where I was actually able to come to some level of acceptance of, hey, maybe it's never, maybe I just have to accept the fact that I'm never going to be, a 10 or 12 handicap again. Maybe I'm just going to be a 20 handicapper and I'm going to need to be okay with that. Am I going to try to be a 10 again? Yes. Am I going to ruin my time with my friends and my, my enjoyment of the game because of that? No, I need to get to a different place mentally. Yeah. And I think that's really what Tim helped me kind of get to. And, you know, it was funny because he said at the outset, you know, oftentimes things evolve into, you know, life as well and beyond golf. And that's sort of where our relationship went, which was very beneficial as well.
Well, and that's the thing I would say from not only being around Tim, but other people in this sort of category, which is, you know, there's something about golfers. It's like, I'll be happy when I can shoot 82, or I'll be happy when I get my handicap down, or I'll be happy. Meanwhile, there's all this stuff going on that has nothing to do, as you say, with your golf swing or score that could also make you happy. But for some reason with golfers, we push that aside and make it so, in what I've learned over the last 6 or 7 years, my own self, is that you need to get happy, and then whatever the results happen will happen, and then you'll have some equanimity around whatever those results are.
Yeah. And actually, there's one thing that it's important that I didn't really mention as part of this whole story. And that is sort of the crutch that I discovered. Well, most people discover is, you know, a few bevies before the round kind of loosens you up and, you know, makes you not care as much. And in fact, my partner and I won the member last year based on a perfect combination of
of alcohol and strokes.
Yes, exactly. So
I love that. You give a guy enough shots and enough beer.
Well, actually, we had a 2-hour rain delay before we teed off in the final round. We were in the final group, and had it not been for that delay, because we were stuck in the pub drinking, so I think we probably wouldn't have won if we hadn't been stuck on that rain delay. But that, you know, on a serious note, you know, that was something else I thought a lot about. I don't want to have to drink alcohol in order to, you know, free my mind up and free my body up to do, you know, to play golf and enjoy it. So that was another big motivation for me, is, you know, that crutch can't be there for very long, because that's a dark road too.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for being open enough to share that.
Yeah,
I honor you for that. So yeah, it's been a very interesting road, man, since we met last summer and gone through all kinds of stuff. And there we went into this year. Nate and I started the Quiet Mind Golf Group, and you accepted the invitation. It's interesting, Howard, that Nate has been working with Craig on his swing. I've been handling, you know, kind of like the other parts of golf. So we started up with our group. We started with putting, and we went through a lot of exercises that, Howard, you've gone through, the retinal after image, that type of thing. But Craig, you had a pretty good experience with that. But as you said at the outset, putting's never been really a big deal. But then we got into chipping, which our next live session was at Rattlesnake Point. And why don't you just take it from here in terms of what you were thinking about, what you were feeling going into that session, and what you were hoping for?
I was mostly feeling cold, Tim, going into that.
It was cold.
It was a cold and windy day at Rattlesnake. Yeah, I you know, I was just curious to see what, you know, we were going to do that was along the lines of like, I figured it would be something along the lines of the retinal after image, or something, some kind of trickery that you would have up your sleeve to sort us out. But it was very much unexpected, what we did, and I'll kind of describe it. So Tim had me, what he said was, you know, I just want to take your wedge, and in my case it was a 60, and I just want you to bruise the grass with your wedge. So just get in a nice rhythm and bruise the grass. And so
just keep the stroke going, eh?
Yeah, just get it going. Just get a nice rhythm bruising the grass. And then, so I started doing that, and I got to a point where I could feel a nice rhythm going. And then he said, okay, now I want you to close your eyes. And so, you know, I closed my eyes, and I could just kind of feel that rhythm. And then he said, okay, I'm going to put a ball in front of your club, and I'm not going to tell you when I do it. And I said, first of all, do you think you have a death wish? Like, but it was fascinating because, you know, I was just okay. And I just kept my rhythm, and then you'd hear click, and then click, and a few more strokes, click. And they all felt, you can feel when a chip feels good. And,
Sure.
and they all felt good. And, we stopped the exercise. And the thing that really just kind of was like this aha moment was my body figured out what to do in order to create that rhythm. So, I had my weight I'm a lefty, I had my weight on my right foot. I was sort of stabilized, I had a certain posture, my arms were working a certain way. And it's, we've been talking about this, that, and I know that, the Fred, we always laugh in the Quiet Mind group, it's the Fred Shoemaker game. We have to take a drink every time he says Fred Shoemaker, but, that your body knows what to do. And it was that moment where it was like, my body knows what to do. It actually knows what to do. And one of the other members of the group said, if I was to tell somebody or show a new golfer how to chip, I would say, look at that guy, watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, that's mind-boggling. And then it got even more interesting because we started a game of 18, which I don't know.
Par 18? Yeah.
Par 18.
I know the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did 3 holes of par 18, and I got up and down on the first 2 and lipped out on the third hole. For me to get up and down once a year would be a miracle. To do it 2 times in a row, just unbelievable. So, I came away from that experience, and I forget exactly how I described it, Tim. You probably remember better than I do it. I think I said it was a religious experience of biblical proportions or something.
Yeah, I read that in the blog. And I'm like, again, only a golfer could find something so simple to be something of significance.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Tim. You wanted to pop. I wanted to say something else, but you wanted to pop in there, Timmy?
Yeah, no, it was so cool, Craig, that you did the thing, the continuous stroke, eyes closed, and then you looked up and you saw the balls in kind of like a relatively tight circle on the green.
Yeah.
And just the smile on your face was amazing. And as you kept going, and then you went, okay, let's see if I can do it with my eyes open. And like you were, like it was so cool. You were like ecstatic. And yeah, your exact quote was, I think this is epic on a scale of biblical proportions.
Level, yeah. Amazing.
Because you'd in essence broken through. But the interesting thing here, Howard, that is that, as Craig said, someone in the group said, if I was going to teach someone how to chip, I'd say, look at this guy, look at Craig. And the thing is that neither Nate nor I gave him one instructional tip or any instruction whatsoever. It was all Craig's doing. All that we did, and I borrowed, basically what I did, I adapted a Fred Shoemaker putting exercise to this, and he figured it out on his own. His body taught him how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and I'm going to comment on something in a second, because I don't want to debate brains versus body, but your body is attached to the thing that sits inside your skull. So clearly we should have said, so Craig, obviously you can hear from this story, had the chipping yips. Chipping was a bit of an issue for him, like a lot of people it is. And
a huge issue.
It's a huge issue for a lot of people. It's a huge issue for a lot of people, and for some reason, people like Craig, who can swing it well and hit a driver no problem, they get close to a green, and all of a sudden the tension level rises. And I don't need to explain why people have this phenomenon, but it has to do with proximity and expectation. I think you know that. But it is interesting to me that all it took for Tim and Nate to interrupt your story of I can't chip was to show you that your body, we'll say for the sake of this discussion, that your body knows somewhere inside its memory or sensation, it knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, somebody who's not as insightful as my man here, Coach Tim, might spend the afternoon with you showing you where in your stance to put the ball, and you've had a million tips from friends, you've gone on YouTube, you've seen everything.
Yeah.
But the simple activity of closing your eyes and feeling the club head interrupted a nervous physical sensation. So the question I was going to ask, and you sort of answered it, was when you opened your eyes, you were still able to replicate that feeling.
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Have you played since that time?
I have. I've played several times since then.
And how has the chipping been since then?
It's been dramatically better.
Amazing.
I would say that you know, I've dropped my game by 10 strokes actually. You know, pretty much right away.
That's a lot.
Wow. That is a lot. You really,
Well, I had a lot of strokes.
I was going to say,
as a percentage, it's lower than you might think. But.
How bad were you chipping? That's just a joke, Gary. Craig, I don't want to get into your head. So you've had success on the golf course, which is amazing. Yeah,
actually, it was really funny stories. We played with one of the members that I hadn't played with before, but knew quite well. And he said after the round, he said, "Wow, you got a really good short game." I just started laughing. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's hilarious." Great. You have no idea.
No, it does go to something that we talk a lot about on and off the air. Just that is, all of, and I say this respectfully. I'm not saying that what Tim and Nate didn't do was amazing, but a lot of your problems were just a story, just a thing that you said to yourself. And basically what happens is, and I got I read this recently, so I'm just regurgitating it, but if you say, I can't chip, what happens to your brain is it looks for evidence to support that. Yeah. And you go out, and as soon as you have, so you have this thought, I'm a bad chipper, that's what you think. So your brain goes, oh, okay, well, let me show you. Let me prove that to you. And every opportunity you have to chip or pitch a ball is an opportunity for your brain to go, you said we suck, so I'm going to show you that. Mm-hmm. Now the story you're going to have to get used to is, I can do this. I've proven it to myself.
Yeah. And I will say, I can't say it's all sunshine and roses, because there have been holes where I got into that old sort of habit or frame of mind, or, I didn't take my time to sort of just feel the club head, bruise the grass, whatever, just to get in that same frame of mind. And, because you're hurrying or you're, whatever, and you skull it or you chunk it or whatever. And the difference now, though, is it's more like, okay, I got in my own way there. Mm-hmm. Not that I can't do it. Before it was I can't do it. Now it's I know I can do it. I just didn't do it that time.
Yes.
And that's the big difference. And I guess that, actually I want to go back to something you said, Howard, which is, yes, I've had all those short game lessons. Yes, I've watched all the YouTube videos. I've done it all. And to me, the difference is those were all external. So those are all things that other people are showing you. They're external to you. It's like somebody else's ideas or somebody else's thoughts and feelings or whatever. These were my thoughts and feelings. These were internal to me. And that was the difference. It was like my body figured it out. Nobody could have showed me that, I don't think. They could have said, put your weight on this foot, make your arm needs to feel a certain, like only you can get your own feelings. Nobody else can tell you. And I think a lot of, in retrospect, golf instruction, and what is so different about Nate and Tim is they're encouraging you to find your own feelings, the things that your body knows how to do that get you to execute the way you can.
Well, I think that's a great endorsement of not only what you've learned, but also the way that Nate and Tim are going about, helping people find something. And the last thing I'll say before we let you go is just, Timmy, like, what a great endorsement. Not only that, but Craig and others like him, you are going to, then you sort of own it. You're like, okay. And by the way, for the record, just so you know, like, we all make bad chips. Yeah. The difference is when you get into that rut of, I'm a bad chipper, pitcher, whatever, put your part of your golf game there. Then whenever, again, back to the evidence. So you have one bad chip, I'm a bad chipper. Listen, I stubbed a chip the other day. It was a difficult chip. I was trying to, I just didn't come out the way I planned it, but I didn't walk away going, well, I guess I can't chip now, because that's not a story I tell myself. Yeah. But I think that's the thing I would say for everyone listening. The big takeaway for me is, and should be for others, is that it's not about externally focused stuff. It's internally, and that's bravo to both you, sweet angels.
Yeah. One of the things I find that's really interesting, maybe just as we start to wind this down with Craig, is that element of giving up control, giving up the idea, okay, I have to do this. I have to keep my weight forward. I need to feel, my right wrist is flat, my right wrist is hinged, or I need to do this. I need to accelerate through it. All that stuff that we've read about, we've seen YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just been my experience, both as a obsessed golfer, golf nerd, and through my work, fortunate with people like Carl Morris and Fred Shoemaker, is that's not how we roll as humans. That we have capabilities, but as you said, it's an inside game, Craig? In terms of your ability to do it and finding what works for you. Yes, indeed, a coach, other people can help you very much to just speed that process up by creating, say an environment, and get you some feedback and that kind of thing. But mainly, I find when people start to achieve a degree of flow in golf or in any other parts of their lives, is that there's kind of like a surrendering to my own internal wisdom and allowing that to flourish. So kudos to you, man, Craig. It's been really so fun to watch.
Just to finish up what you were just saying about people, everyone has abilities, and sometimes it takes somebody like you to open up that person's, to be curious. I think Craig actually said that you went into that session with a curiosity, and I would say that about, I'm going to talk in the next half hour after we say goodbye a little bit. By the way, I'm introducing a new feature. It's called from the desk of GSL. What? So I'm gonna
not from the cloud.
Yeah, it's from the cloud. I'm just gonna come down. I'm gonna share some GSL stuff with you. But what I loved about this session with Craig is that all you did was show Craig what was already inside, which is there's a possibility, a curiosity that maybe you aren't a terrible chipper. Because again, says who? You know what I mean? Like, I get up and down, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm involved in this thing called Decade. But I can tell you what my up and down statistics are to a decimal point. And so if I don't get up and down every single time, I don't panic, because you can't have an average without, there's sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So anyway, thanks for opening up and sharing your story with us. We certainly appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Thanks very much for coming on.
All right,
and this has been a lot of fun too, eh?
Yeah, it sure has.
Okay, well,
all right. So we'll see you Friday.
All right, sounds good.
Quiet mind. That's why I could not be involved, because I'm loud. I'm doing my own. It's called Loud Yelling Golf, where I just yell at you like Gilbert Gottfried for half an hour. Well, why do you suck? And then anyway, it's a whole different program. It's very aggressive. Thanks, Craig.
All right.
All right.
Bye now.
See you, man.
All right. There's Craig Reed. And I can't believe he drove by my house all those times. He didn't knock on the door. I did have, every once in a while I would have listeners knock on my door. And,
really?
Yeah. It was famously, it was a listener / an acquaintance. I got fired in 2006, quite publicly, actually. It was on the cover. This is funny. It was on the cover. I was the lead. This is how I used to be quite notorious. I was on the lead page of the National Post Entertainment. I got fired on a Wednesday. That Saturday was a big picture of me, and it said, "Humble Howard fired." And that was a bit weird for me and my family. And I get a knock on the door that Sunday, the day after the article came out. Some guy just knew where I lived, knocked on the door, and it turned out to be one of the dads from one of my daughter's soccer teams. And he knocked on the door, and he's like, Humble, you got to tell me what happened. I'm like, no, I don't, because I don't know your last name. Now, away with you.
I thought maybe he was going to say, I just wanted to see you're okay.
No,
I still love you.
You know what it was, yeah, it would have been nice, but he was basically like, I know Humble. I know where he lives. I'm going to just rock up to his doorstep and ask him about a very private matter that I saw in the newspaper.
Boy.
Oh,
that story went in a very different direction than I thought it was. I thought, aren't people great?
Yeah, people
They all
wow.
want to help out. It was just another.
But I always remember that. You have to tell me, he said. You have to tell me what happened. I went, I do not have to, because I don't know your last name, sir. Maybe if we were closer, like I knew your last name.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
So here we go with, I call this golf journaling with GSL. You are gonna love this.
Does the laughter cancel out the atmospheric vibe here?
Golf journaling with GSL. Today, I felt like I was observing the activity, as opposed to being so immersed you almost suffocate. I play my best golf when I don't take any of it, any shot, any outcome, any putt, or score personally. When I play ping pong, I don't care if I swing and miss the table. I just pick the ball up and play on. This is the state I'm looking to create. It comes first, by the way. Most of us think if I play well, then I'll be happy, but that's actually backwards. Manage your state, take your full turn, and it's more likely you'll make better decisions, which tend to lead to lower scores. This has been Golf Journaling with GSL.
Can I say amen?
Pardon me, sir?
Can I say amen?
You can say namaste.
Hallelujah?
I wrote that because I'm starting to do this. I'm starting to do some golf journaling. And I'm also doing it for my group, the Decade Devotees, the double Ds, I call them. Make your own big titty jokes. Wait, that's not how we roll in the double Ds.
We're above that. We're above that.
We're above that.
You can think all you want, folks. We're above that.
You can. I'm not even a double D guy. I just thought it was fun. So I wrote that for myself. I know some guys are. Okay, let's just be men. Some guys love the double.
Move on, GSL. You were in rarefied territory. Now you've come back down. Move out. Move up.
I'm just telling you, that's not my style. Here's how if you were in a better mood, I would tell you my double D joke, but I can see you're not in a mood. So here's the thing. I wrote that.
What?
I'm teasing. I shouldn't have said you're not in a good mood. We want to keep this very spiritual. So I wrote that for myself, and I've been doing that after every round. Just a little note to myself, like, okay, what did you feel? How did you think? What worked? What was sort of your state? And I think I've mentioned to you, I was sort of mentally struggling a little bit. In the early season, my rounds have been pretty erratic for me. I've had some very low rounds, and I've had some higher rounds than normal. And, I think I've shared with you some stuff going on in my personal life, which is, affects your golf. And so I'm kind of working through it. And part of the reason I started journaling is I want to, as a golfer and as a person, separate, like, what is real and what is me being in a little bit of a state. And, and we all, listen, we all have stuff that goes on in our personal lives that affect our golf and vice versa. I mean, one of the things that Craig said I relate so much to it, is that feeling of heaviness and darkness we get if we're disappointed in our golf. And what does that mean? And why does it mean so much? But, I'm not here to debate why it means so much. It's clear it does to you and me and our Swing Thoughts family. It means a lot to us, and it's hard for people who don't golf to understand how much it means to us. Craig, I should say, I keep calling him Gary. Craig is a very accomplished guy. He's in shape. He's got a great, life, and yet he was feeling a weird darkness about some stupid game. The reason I mentioned ping pong in that little diatribe there is I think about, I play a lot of ping pong. I love it. And I have such a fun relationship with the game. Like, I'm decent. I'm probably single digit, ping pong player. Like, I'm decent at it. I've been playing my whole life. My brothers and I grew up playing it. But I never take it personally. You could wax me. You could beat me 21-0. And no part of it would I feel shame about it. But I feel a lot of shame around golf. I think I have felt shame around golf. And I wonder if others do as well.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. Craig discussed it today. I went through that. I remember a couple weeks ago, I had a round at Blue Springs where every drive on the back nine was dead left. And I had this heaviness around me for 2 days
Yeah.
of, oh, what's going on here? Which in ping pong, if you went like, oh God, how come I can't cut it? Oh my God,
Yeah.
I guess all this work is just gone for nothing.
All
I
this
got to
great
see my ping pong
work I've been
coach.
doing.
Maybe I'm not doing enough right arm flexion exercises or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts. And the thing is, we can't control these thoughts. I mean, we cannot control our thinking and these feelings. This stuff just comes up, and it's just stuff we have to deal with. Hopefully, we respond more than we just, react, as we've talked about many times. But that's just what we're dealt with, because we make such a connection to it, and it's what we desire, it's what we want, it's how we see ourselves, and yeah, I totally get it.
Well, that word, I don't know that we've delved much into it, but that's really what it is for a lot of golfers. We are feeling
That word shame?
that word shame. I know we've
Is that the word
talked
you mean?
about- yeah, that word.
That's a heavy word.
It is, and
That's a heavy
and I know
word.
the work. Well, here's the thing. I know you relate to it because of the work you've done in the Mankind Project. I relate to it because it's, I've done some work myself, therapy wise and counseling wise, and there's a lot of that around golf. And what is it really? Well, what am I ashamed of? That people won't think I'm a good golfer, or I won't think I'm a good golfer, or if I have a bad round driving, or I hit every drive on the back nine left. What does it really matter? But it does matter, and I can understand. I relate to the fact that I shot 81 on men's night again after an uncharacteristic couple of holes where I got all worked up about something, and then a couple days later, I go back to back shooting low 70s, and that's why I wrote that journal. That when I observe the activity in a detached fashion, when I can detach from results being something that make me happy or sad or shamed, I always play better. And even if I don't shoot the number that I think I should, et cetera, I just have a lighter feeling by being more in the ping pong mindset, which is, like I said to Craig, you're allowed to hit a bad chip. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. But so many golfers do that linear. They do it quickly. We go, I did all this work in my chipping clinic, and now I'm still being shitty at chipping. I must be a bad person.
Well, there you go.
for
So
non-
that's exactly where I wanted to go with this, is to take a bit of a dive into, when we're talking about shame, what are we actually talking about? Because a lot of people don't really know. So let's differentiate it. So guilt is, a lot of people get them confused. Guilt is I made a mistake, and I'm going to learn from it. But in shame, it's more like, and there's degrees of it. Shame is more like, it cuts us kind of to our soul. It's like that punch in the gut. It's something's gone on in our lives in which this is bad. Mm-hmm. And when you get into toxic shame, it's not the fact that, say, I was a bad golfer today, that I am bad, like as a person. I'm a bad person. I'm sick. I'm unredeemable. I'm a loser. All this stuff. And it's baggage, man, that comes back, family of origin stuff, and often going back generations. All this stuff carries through into our lives now. So yeah, shame's a tough one. But it's often it just takes some time. Like you talked about how you've had some stuff going on in your personal life. So if you kind of look at your life on a horizontal plane, we go along, life's okay, things are going, and then boom, down we go. And it's absolutely necessary that we go down. It doesn't mean we've made a mistake. Oh, I'm sad. I got to stop being sad. No, you're down there because you're working through stuff, and there's some pain you've got. It's almost like there's wounds that you have to heal from, and that takes time. It takes healing. So oftentimes, when we have these feelings of shame, it's to understand, okay, what's going on here? Oh yeah, I'm back in my stuff of this stuff, and then just over time we kind of climb out of it. There's no magic way to come out of it. There's no magic fix or anything like that. Often it's just kind of a really, really, I've caught in my story, really.
Yeah.
I got these feelings and these stories. It's all cyclical. It all feeds on each other. But eventually we can come out of it. And sometimes we need some help, just talking to a friend, releasing it. A lot of these things are just stuff that goes around in our head like a hamster on a wheel. And if we tell someone who we trust and we feel safe, often that can really lead to that healing.
Yeah, yes to all. I mean, processing what's going on in my personal life it leads to processing, sort of more about the golfing life. But, and again, it's going to take a while to kind of get it all figured out. And I'm not like, I had a couple of rounds where, I had a lot of weird feelings around them. Like I was sort of like, have I regressed? And I started to think like, am I going backwards now? And,
Yep.
And, talking to some people, counselors and such, and that's why I started journaling, because I want to know what it was what were you thinking and why, and how do you create a state where your best golf can come out that and also how you can be happiest as a person. And again, let's not debate anymore with our family here that golf is important to all of us. It just is. But I don't want to leave this without giving a couple of, decade-esque little tidbits here, because when we're feeling this way, oftentimes I felt last Wednesday a bit of regression to, well, I can't believe I did that. I had a couple of holes where I was like, really, Howard? Like, here you are telling all these guys, take your full turn, blah, 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 and then you didn't. And then I thought about it after. I'm like, well, even you're allowed, even you, the great GSL, even I'm allowed, because I'm a human being,
Absolutely,
to not do it perfectly all the time. But I will tell you a couple days later, again, this is the point being, I felt better about myself. I'd had a little more time to process what was going on with me. And then I played on Saturday. And if it wasn't for Gortner shooting 69 like a
yipes
guy, I would have been the lowest round that day. I said that to him. I'm like, dude, it's not, because he's like a +2, and I shot 73.
Yeah.
But here's when I shot the 73. It's not that the score was more in keeping with what I see myself. I just kind of was in a lighter mood, and in a mode of being more present. And here's the decade part. So, I always talk about not stubbing chips or two chipping, whatever. And I was talking to Craig there. I was just hitting it nicely, and I hit a shot into a par 5. I had about 65 yards. I flushed it. I hit the downslope of a little hill, and so instead of grabbing, it kicked forward, and I was about, I don't know, not more than 12 or 13 paces away from the flag, but I was in a bit of a stubby lie, and it was kind of sitting down. What I didn't want to do was hit it 40 feet past the flag, so I was being a little cuter than I normally am, and I stubbed the chip. It went 4 feet in front of me, just got onto the fringe. But where an earlier version of myself, a more shame-based version, I would have quickly gone and hit that, because I was away. Yep. I would have quickly gone and hit the 12-foot putt, and I missed it, and then whatever. But I just stopped myself, and I went, okay, well, that was a difficult chip, so I'm not going to, it didn't stick to me. And then I went around and I paced that putt, and I looked at it just like it was any other putt, the same way I would do if it was a birdie or a par, or whatever it was. And I was proud of that. I thought, okay, well, that's good awareness. Like, I took my full turn. I gave that putt all the attention I would give it if I wasn't feeling weird about having just stubbed a chip. And that was great. Now, the fact that it went in is a bonus and makes the story better. But what I enjoyed about the process was I gave it every chance to go in. Had it not, I would have walked away going, well, that was a tough chip. You gave a good putt. Let's go on to the next hole. Versus what we all tend to do from time to time is stub the chip, quickly hit the putt, hit it 6 feet by. Now you're 3-putting and you made 7. And that happens to all of us. So that's a little bit of like from real life GSL stuff, where that's why decade works so well for me, at least, because I know that stroke counts just as much as the drive I hit. and I'm aware to the point where I'm going to give it all the attention it deserves. And I thank you for your attention.
Well, yeah. I have a slightly different take on this. And I think decade could have been a factor, but I also just think that you were stronger. And what I mean by that is that you've been through some stuff last couple of weeks. And so when we're in stuff, we're in stress, we're a bit more in survival mode. So it's far harder to really grasp onto our true self and to really have, in essence, the courage to be our true self, rather than say rushing through something because I don't know what the guys are going to think, or let me get out of here. That's not being true to yourself. No, I'm going to take my time. But you need to be in a place where you're feeling a degree of equanimity.
Yep.
You can keep your boundaries strong. I'm okay. No one's going to die here, especially me. So I'm going to take my time doing this. And so you basically, you're able to avail yourself of your full self. And we need to be in a place that we need to be rested. We need to just be in a quieter place. You look at any parts of your life where there's stuff when you're in upheaval. It's just so hard to bring yourself to your full self, to your work, to fully concentrate on what's going on, or just sometimes just to hold a conversation because you're distracted. Why is that? Because in your subconscious, your ego and everything is trying to work this shit out, and sometimes that takes time.
I
and so
agree.
we wait for ourselves to come back out.
I agree, and I guess maybe why I mentioned the decade part, because what you just described and what I'm trying to describe is that managing your state comes before managing your game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Decade has given me the perspective, but one of the things I wrote after that round was even if the putt didn't go in, it was the act of taking my turn after a disappointment.
Exactly.
It had a chance because managing my state is what keeps you in the present, which is where better decisions are made.
Yeah.
And, all what you've said is very true, that, yeah, I was in a bit better mood. I was in a better place to forgive myself. And again, that's such a thing that golfers, I'm as guilty as anyone, of having been in the past unable to forgive a bad shot. Like, I'm not allowed to make one. Whereas the last few, and again, normally, one of the reasons I got to where I am as a player is I've gotten very good at that. But recently, because of, as you say, my brain and body are processing other things, I haven't had that as available, let's say. I shot 81 a week ago with 12 greens in regulation. So there was some stuff going on in a couple other holes that were so out of character from me. I made decisions I wouldn't normally make. And I thought about it after. I'm like, wow, you still can do that. But of course I can. I'm just a regular, dude.
That's what, yeah. So it's like, as I say to my clients very often, is that thank you for confirming your humanity. You are a person. And that's the thing that joking aside, sometimes we think we're, enlightened or evolved. No, we're not. We're humans. We're bags of skin, and we have these things that we do, and we can make some poor decisions because we're just kind of in a crappy state, like you described. But just before we leave this, I just want to say a fantastic example of what journaling can do for you. I recommend journaling to all my clients after every game. Write out, what happened for you. Often write down your best 3 shots, etc. But the thing that I think that the key thing, what journaling does, if you just keep writing and writing and writing, or typing and typing, if you will, if you just keep that going and don't stop, and you don't evaluate it and go like, oh, this is stupid or anything. If you just keep going, you drop down below your ego mind into more of your subconscious. That stuff where, in essence, to connect with Craig, you lose control of what you're writing, and then you're getting down into the real stuff. So that's some of the great stuff about journaling. So I just So thank you for that, and for sharing that. That was awesome.
Well, I haven't really. I mean, I do a lot of post-round, post-mortem in terms of entering statistics and, going over the strokes gained and did I gain more than I lost. But this is different. This is like, what am I feeling?
Yep.
What am I worried about? What are my thoughts? This is some coaching I've been getting. What are my thoughts about my goals and what I'm working on? Thoughts about upcoming games. Why does it matter? Why do I believe this to be true? That's why I said to Craig, you're the one that the fact that that whole story about how I was close to 12 and now I'm shooting 110, all of that isn't, you're physically still able to shoot a 12 handicap. The only reason you shoot 110 has nothing to do with your physical ability. It's just a story you've created.
Absolutely.
To the point where he wanted to quit. Like I said, you could beat me every game of ping pong. I'd still come back to ping pong the next day because I don't give a shit about it.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah,
So there you go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Craig Reed for opening up. Tim and I are playing a tournament again together on this weekend. It's our the early bird at St. Thomas. If you're hearing this on Friday, which is when we're going to release the episode, tonight at the St. Thomas Club, Charles Fitzsimmons and myself are giving a little, our very first talk called Pathways to Par, which a title that was hatched here on the show. Pathways to Par with Fitz and myself. Tim's going to be there, our buddy Ronan. It's just going to be all this and more. I won't be doing my act, hopefully, although it's hard for me. I get in front of people, and it's like a weird thing kicks in with me, and I start doing crowd work. But I think it'll be valuable. At least I tell you what, Fitz has got some great stuff, and I'll be sharing some of my decade insights, and Tim might even get up and tell a story or two. So, are you looking forward to playing in this tournament, Tim?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Again, my brother Pat is going to caddy for me. Playing St. Thomas is such a treat. We've talked about it a few times. It's one of the, I would say, hidden gems of golf, certainly in Ontario, perhaps in Canada. Stanley Thompson course is just incredible, and it's freaking difficult. So the thing that I've been working on this week, not working on, is what's my intention for the round? And the intention is to go and just to be able to just allow shots to happen. I want to create shots. I want to play in a state of freedom, and not to live and die with my score, because I'm of a certain vintage. I'm 65, and I'm going to be. It's a tough golf course. I think they're playing it from about 64, 65.
For you, it'll be 64.50.
So that's still,
it's got some length to it.
Yeah, and it's a difficult golf course. So I know that I'll get sucked back into my stuff, my story every once in a while. Oh, my God, I'm a coach. I'm not supposed to make double bogeys. If I can let go of that stuff and just allow and accept, then I'll come out of it with what it can really offer, and that's to have some fun with my brother and have a great time playing golf.
I've been saying this now for a couple of years about that golf course because, I'm playing it from close to 7,000 yards, and ever since they lengthened it for one of, I think it was the Canadian Amateur or the Ontario Amateur, I'm not sure, but ever since
Ontario,
they lengthened it, because it used to be I used to play the back tees. Within a few years ago, it was like 6,700 yards. And as soon as I got to the 69, close to 7,000 yard mark, I started telling this story to myself and others. Oh my God, it's so long. And I decided this week that I wasn't going to go into this tournament, because one of the reasons we say that, it's a tough golf course, it's too long for me, I'm 65, I'm 62, is what we're doing, and I'm just going to say this because I've thought a lot about it this week, is that we're giving ourselves a pre-excuse for what if we don't have a great score, what does that say about us, etc.
Exactly.
So I'm going into this tournament, I'm going to try and do the best I can, and if the best I can is a higher score than maybe I'd like, I'm going to live with it. But I'm not going to not try, because I've set up a scenario where it's too long. And here's what I did for myself. I went on Google Earth a couple days ago, and I just did all the measurements, the decade measurements about, decisions. But what I did is I wanted to see for myself, given my average drive, where I would be if I just hit a normal drive on some of the holes that I think are too long for me. And I went, no, those are absolutely yardages I'm comfortable with. Because I don't want to go there thinking it's too much golf course for me, because that's just an excuse for what if I play shitty? Well, what if you do play shitty? So what if we both of us played shitty? It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But I don't want to back into it and go, well, I can't hit these shots, because I can, and so can you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would leave you with.
Yeah, thanks. All righty.
All right, Andrew. Well, thanks again. Thanks very much to our sponsors, of course. JWAppareLinc.com. TaylorMade, of course. Good Lord. Good Lord, TaylorMade. Thank you so much for being so generous to us. TaylorMadeGolf.ca. And our very latest NeuroPeak Pro, NeuroPeakPro.com is where you find out more. How do you get a hold of Tim O'Connor? Well, he'll tell you.
O'ConnorGolf.ca.
It's not too late to join the Quiet Mind Golf Group. You can tell it's making a difference in people's lives, and it could make a difference in yours. And, of course, follow us here at humbleandfred.com. And we will see you next week.
Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces.